There is a patchwork quilt, I'll call it that. I just saw the map, in fact, a couple of minutes ago on my TV monitor of the various states around the country that are on board joining Texas in its suit that it's bringing against Pennsylvania, Georgia, Wisconsin, and Michigan, trying to overturn the presidential votes in those states because of voter fraud and other issues related to counting late ballots. And Idaho is somewhat of a hybrid in all of this. Our state attorney general has declined to join on with Texas Attorney General Ken Paxton. However, we have seen a lot of other prominent Republicans say they are on board. I got a telephone call yesterday afternoon. She had actually been in a meeting with Lieutenant Governor Janice McGeehan, and that is State Representative Dorothy Moon. And she was telling me that they have completed and they are filing an amicus brief on behalf, I think it's 21 legislators here in Idaho, along with the Lieutenant Governor. And then I read this morning that even some legislators in other states want to get involved with this too. In other words, riding on the tails of this particular amicus brief. First of all, Representative, welcome back to our program.
Oh, Bill, thank you so much. It was good talking to you yesterday. I'm looking forward to shedding some light on a few things today.
Well, to mention we're at 23. It's probably a little bit warmer here than it is there.
I don't even want to talk about it.
And we got 737 on Magic Valley this morning at News Radio 1310 KLIX. First of all, the Lieutenant Governor didn't waste any time doing this. And it's almost interesting to point out that she was doing this simultaneously without any knowledge of what Lawrence Wasden was going to be doing, and we get two vastly different conclusions here.
Right. And we're against the clock. We're against a hard clock in the fact that nothing was moving in our conservative state or supposed conservative state. Was a very alarming to the lieutenant governor, as well as it's over 40 legislators that have signed on to this amicus brief, and along with other state legislative bodies. So anyway, the Attorney General has been holding up on this, and then he did finally come out with a statement saying that states are sovereign, and the reason why he didn't want to join Texas is because he wouldn't want another state saying, Idaho, you didn't do your election right, so we're going to have to go after you. Well, I don't know. I think in a national election, when the obvious support for President Trump and the Republican congressional members was overwhelming, and what happened on the night of the election when all these battleground states just shut down and decided to start counting later after they could do their shenanigans, I think we owe it, without a doubt, to the American people to let them know that we are behind Texas efforts.
Well, and I do see a lot of Republicans getting on board, and I guess in some cases, some of these people, you might cynically say they're doing this because they're looking at public opinion among their fellow Republicans and realize it's overwhelming in support of Ken Paxton.
Yes. And, between the time that I talked to you in the afternoon and by the time I got home, I've had more, and I just cleared my messages. I check my messages on my hard line all the time, and it was full of messages. And I think I had 87 emails. I've never seen an issue affect Idaho citizens as much as this issue of not being guaranteed a fair election. Because if we don't have fair elections, Bill, we have lost our country, and I think everybody knows exactly what is at stake.
The governor, I've noticed late in the day, he had also said that he is supportive of it. I don't know that he's filed a brief. I guess at the moment it's a verbal commitment.
He did not support this amicus brief. This one, the lieutenant governor working with Heather Scott. Heather Scott found a group of attorneys talking to Texas, talking to the state of Texas, got a group that would go ahead and prepare this brief for us pro bono, so there's no tax money being spent on this. This is all for the greater good of making sure that our elections are done and fairly and correctly. So anyway, this one was put out to all of the Republican caucus, and they were given a certain timeline. So they had until 9 o'clock yesterday morning to sign on because this had to be in by noon. So they had to put on the finishing touches, get all the names of all the legislators on there. And let's remember that it's the legislative body in all of these other states and these 18 states that have joined Texas that the legislature are the ones who make the laws. They're the ones who represent the people, and they're the ones who have standing in this issue. So that's why it's very important that our Attorney General had jumped on the original lawsuit just as these other states did. And as I told you, I'm so proud being from Missouri originally. I'm very glad to see Missouri was one of the last ones to jump on. Now, what we've done with this brief is that we are saying we support Texas, we support free and fair elections, and we want to make sure that there's no long-term consequences from what happened in these states that are run with Democrat officials in the positions of Secretary of State, Attorney General, and Governor, that in most cases with these states, that this doesn't happen again. And so that is what we are going after, that we are supporting that. Now, the governor did not jump onto this letter. I will let you know, aside from us getting phone calls and emails, the governor and the AG have received thousands. They won't answer them. I know the AG is just saying, call Representative Moon or call your legislator, because they don't want to deal with it. And he is dead wrong on this issue. He has let the state of Idaho down. And I am just appalled that he will not listen to the people and do what's right. In his argument of state sovereignty, you bet we're a sovereign state. But where there's due process in question, and there is, we have got to make sure it's done correctly. And he wasn't concerned about due process and equal protection for us. And that's what we need to be looking at. That is the big picture, equal protection. So the governor, let's get back to the Governor Little. He did not join in on this group. However, the state GOP is collectively with the national GOP going to file an amicus brief. And whether or not that's been done or not, because it had to be done by noon. I don't know if I haven't seen it yet, but I have seen ours has been formally filed. But that one, if you're not a legislator or a legislative body, and you don't really have standing, but I guess you're kind of like the cheerleader at the side of the game. And that's what the state GOP is doing. We are cheerleading for Texas. We want them, to prevail, and we want, to support them by, waving our our little pom-poms and jumping up and down. But the fact of the matter, we would have been much more effective and been much more clear in our position had our AG joined the lawsuit, and had we had time, we would have tried to join the lawsuit. Another point that I want to bring up that was told to me by an attorney yesterday is, why didn't the governor, seeing how the attorney general was dragging his feet, why didn't the governor just hire a law firm and go ahead and join the Texas lawsuit?
Good question.
I think that's a real good question. We can have lawsuits for everything else, fighting the grocery tax and such things. So why couldn't that have happened? I guess that will be answered by minds greater than mine. But when an attorney tells me that the governor could have hired a legal team here in Idaho to have joined the lawsuit, that is what probably should have been done.
We got to get to a short break. We've got more coming up with State Representative Dorothy Moon on News Radio 1310 KLIX and newsradio1310.com. I got two different temperatures. Weather Underground says it's 19. My gauge here in the studio says it's 24 just outside our building. It's 7:45. The Rush Morning Update is on the way, as well as a check of the weather, overall check. Bill Colley with you on News Radio 1310 KLIX and newsradio1310.com. We're joined by State Representative Dorothy Moon for about 7-8 more minutes this segment of the program. We're at 26. Bill Colley on News Radio 1310 KLIX and newsradio1310.com. And we're at, I'm going to call it, one of our forecasts says 26, the other one still says 19. So somebody's obviously breathing on one of these thermometers. Representative, we were just talking off air. You had a bit more you wanted to add to this this discussion. In fact, we have certain issues in Idaho that we have to clean up too as well.
That's right. Our primary, if everybody remembers, we went down to a June 2nd date as far as getting the ballots in. which did alter a couple of the races because it was a last-minute scramble by opposition to get ballots mailed in or run into the county courthouses because they had a little bit of breathing room when that decision was made. And it was the Attorney General who gave the legal advice to Little to rewrite election law for our primary. And having any branch other than the legislative branch writing law is a violation of the Constitution. So, in essence, that's what the Texas lawsuit is all about. The Attorney General isn't going to now admit he gave faulty legal advice by agreeing with Texas. And the other thing is with so that to me I think that's a really big issue. We, the legislature should have been called back in, and we weren't called back in. And now that was a mistake that should never have happened. We should not have changed the primary to June 2nd. There was actually talk of moving it to August. So could you imagine trying to campaign for another handful of months? I mean, we were tired. We were ready to get back to our regular lives after the session. So I think that's something that everybody needs to be aware of. Also, at that time, we had begged leadership, the Speaker, to release some of the legislative legal funds so that we could defend the Constitution when the executive branch violated it by rewriting our election laws. And we were denied having any access to those funds. And because we need to stay united and not make anybody look bad. Well, when it comes down to violating the Constitution, which we swore to uphold the U.S. and Idaho constitutions, and I know everybody's heard that, some of us mean it, and we will do it. So that needs to be said. And then again, the governor does have his own attorneys, so he could have also has plenty of money to have gone out and had his own enjoyment with the Texas lawsuit representing Idaho. And then the last thing, I always feel like I'm under the gun here with the time, but I do have so much to say. Sorry, Bill, is that oh my gosh, I just lost my thought.
Well, you were talking about the number of people earlier who've signed on to this.
Yes. Yeah, so because we were under the time frame of the 9 o'clock in the morning to get it filed and down to Texas, there are over 40 Idaho legislators. It's not just the 15 who met in June, trying to hold back the executive order. It's more than 40. And some of them were left off of the original brief, but they are mending that. And so there's 46 Idaho legislators, which is a majority of our House members who have signed on. And again, because of time constraints, there are probably many more who would have joined on. And now everybody needs to watch and see if the state GOP actually slipped in under the wire on filing their brief. I haven't seen it yet, which means the only brief would be coming from the lieutenant governor and 46 Idaho legislators.
And I believe the way this works, because the court doesn't always, it's not scheduled on a Monday through Friday, so it could go through the weekend before the court could even do a late night Sunday. They could do it and join the Electoral College, and we could have this change, but they have to do it obviously before Monday.
Right, because Monday, if the Electoral College meets, and votes, which of course we don't have a president-elect until they vote, despite what CNN and the mainstream media says. Biden hasn't won until the Electoral College votes. Now, the Supreme Court could come out and throw all four of those states' electoral votes out. We don't know. They might throw, who knows what they're going to do. Hopefully it's to right this horrible wrong and try to deter it from happening in the future. But as it stands right now, we have a lot on the line over the next couple of days, and it's very reflective in our Idahoans based on the outreach that they have made to the legislature and to the elected officials in the State House.
At this stage of the game now, it's really just people are going to be biting their fingernails waiting to see what happens, right?
I am. Yeah, I'm biting my fingernails. It's just it's a very sad time for us who have been fighting for so long, because this is where the rubber meets the road. This is what we've all dreaded for decades, and we're there. And you have a lot of good listeners who understand exactly what I'm saying.
In the final minute, I don't know if you want to wrap it up with anything you had to add to this. I know we're kind of pressed for time, but anything else that we wanted to mention?
Well, on the COVID, I know that we had the Southeastern Health District meet, and The vaccine's on its way. There is supposed to be 975 vaccine applications ready next week in District 7 alone. So that's just the district that serves Custer and Lemhi County. So it's here. And I guess we'll start. They will start with the high-risk folks that work in the nursing homes, the nurses, the physicians, and I think we're going to start seeing relief. I think we've already started getting herd immunity. A lot of the legislators, when we met for the organizational meeting, they said they already have it. They went to give blood and found out they had antibodies. So I do believe that there's more people out there who have had slight colds that were COVID, and I think we're going to nip this faster than we think.
I'm going to talk to you again probably in the next couple of weeks for a legislative preview. But
Okay.
otherwise, good luck and have a great weekend.
Okay, appreciate it, Bill. You have a great day.
Thank you. State Representative Dorothy Moon from District 8 joining us this morning on News Radio 1310, KLIX, and newsradio1310.com. Coming up, the gun guys in hour number 3 of the program, Todd Eccles and Forrest Anderson. It's almost 7:59. I'm going to say it's 24. I'm averaging out some of these temperatures. News next.